All right. Welcome everybody to 10 Things to Know About Home Buying in 2022. I am Shay Hata with the Buy, Sell, Love Chicago team. We are a residential real estate team here in the Chicagoland area. We help about 150 families per year buy and sell real estate. We also work with investors, both in the Chicagoland area and then also the Chicago suburbs, which we'll talk about a little bit as well today. So I'd love to introduce my fantastic business partners, Lauren and David. Do you guys each want to hop in and just say a little quick something about yourself?
Yeah. Hi, I'm Lauren Calderon, and I represent a lot of our buyers on the Buy Sell Love Chicago team. And I've been doing real estate for about 9 years now, and we love our clients.
Perfect. David, all you.
Hi there, David Z, last person alphabetically on the team. I work probably even a little evenly with our buyers and our sellers. So I also work with a lot of people who are working on both sides. So we get to see sort of both pieces of the side. I've been working in real estate for about 16 years and worked with a great team. And we're really glad you're here tonight. Thanks or later in the week as you listen.
Perfect. And if you are joining us live, if you have any questions, please put them in the chat box. Or if you're watching us on Facebook Live, please put questions on Facebook Live and we'll answer those as we go. So let's jump right in. David, do you want to pull up the first slide?
Sure.
All right. So how is the market? David, do you want to answer? Or actually, I'm answering this one. So how's the market? So, it's been a very interesting market with COVID. If we kind of step back to the beginning of COVID, we didn't know how COVID was going to affect the housing market. And as you probably have heard and seen all across the news, it ended up putting the housing market on steroids. What we really found was that people's housing needs changed as a result of COVID. So especially with so many people working from home, they needed work from home areas. And so larger spaces became more popular. So, if somebody was in a 1-bedroom, they now needed a 2-bedroom. They wanted to move to the suburbs potentially because they weren't having to commute into the city anymore. So, people were looking for more space. And then on top of that, they were also looking for more amenities. So outdoor space became really important during COVID, having a backyard that you could go to and hang out and feel really safe in, having extra bonus space where you could have a gym, or that work from home space, a lot of pantry space, those things all really changed with COVID. And we're seeing those things stay. I think we're getting a lot of questions from people about, has the market slowed down? And we're seeing a little bit of a slowdown in the market, but I think it's more of a seasonal slowdown that we see every winter, every fall and winter. Last year was the anomaly because we did not have a slowdown in the market really in fall and winter. Because of COVID, our spring was quite slow and everything got pushed farther into the end of the year. And so the end of the year was very, very busy. Right now, we're seeing that normal seasonal slowdown where there's not as much inventory on the market in the fall and the winter. Prices have come down a little bit because there's not as much inventory and there's not as many, buyers out, sellers on the market, things like that. We're anticipating, though, that it will be a very busy spring again, kind of a normal spring market. We are still seeing multiple offers, especially in the suburbs. I think we're going to be seeing tons of multiple offers across the market in the spring. So it's still a very strong housing market. It's a frustrating market if you're a buyer, particularly if you're a buyer looking to buy in the suburbs. You're going to have a lot of competition, lots of multiple offers going for, significantly over asking price. If you're looking in the city, it's more of a mixed market right now. So single family houses are really selling strongly in the city, again, because people want more space with COVID. Same thing with townhouses. Those are doing really well in the city. Condos are a bit of a mixed bag. 3-bedroom condos are doing fine. Where we're seeing the market struggle a lot is 1-bedroom condos. We've had a really hard time kind of giving 1-bedroom condos away during COVID, again, because people want more space. That market seems to be coming back a little bit more, especially as people are starting to have to go into the office 1 or 2 days a week. That's pushing them back towards the loop area. So I think that market's going to get a little bit stronger. But if you're an investor, it's a great time to be buying a 1-bedroom market. David, Lauren, do you guys want to jump in and say anything else about that question?
Yeah, I think, we talk about that and it's, it's definitely strong and we hear about this. We don't want it to really scare off buyers. There are certain segments that are tougher right now. It is, but there are a lot of micro markets. We have sort of everyone else, we get asked this question 10 times a day. Well, how's the market? And it really depends on your segment. And Shay went into a couple different ones of those. And, so the question, because people are like, oh, is this a good time to buy or not? And that kind of leads us into our next question. Is it a good time to buy? And we always start with, well, is it the right time for you personally and for your family? We are really conscious of the fact that this is a large financial investment and the numbers need to work, but buying first and foremost should be driven sort of by what your needs and your wants are with your family. I mean, are you growing? Are you moving in with someone? Are you suddenly like, we're now definitely working at home. Our company's not going back to work in 22, we're not going back to the office. So in terms of that, I think those are the important things to just sort of figure out in terms of good to buy. So, and we'll talk about interest rates a little bit. I'll just kind of jump on that a little ahead of time. I mean, interest rates are continuing to be low. Historically speaking, they're very low. They've ticked up. They were super low. The government really had done a lot of work to keep them buying up bonds. That's easing up. Expectations are we are going to see interest rates ticking up through the year, moving closer towards the 4% range. So based on interest rates, it probably is a good time to buy, particularly in the first half of the year. You're not going to see those interest rates, you're probably not going to see in a year. Sort of the expectations. We talk a lot to lenders. We have two great lenders we work with, Joe Burke and Chad Lupin. We talk to them almost daily about these, and these are sort of what we're hearing from them. So that's what we're hearing. So in terms of if it's time to buy, personally assessing where you're at, and in terms of sort of the fundamentals, even though prices may be up, if you wait a year, you may not be, you might get a house for a little bit cheaper. However, the interest rates are going to be higher. Your payment's going to be even higher. So that kind of leads us into our next thing in terms of getting started. How much money do you need to buy a home?
Yes, so this is another one of our most common questions we get, and it's also one of the most, just misunderstood questions as well, just because most buyers think that you always have to have 20% down saved for a down payment to put on your next home, and that is incorrect. So there are tons of loan programs out there right now that you're able to put as little as 3% down. And like David mentioned, we have two great lenders that we work with that really, take time to dive into our clients' needs and, overall future goals to make sure that they're being smart in with a financial decision and buying their next home. So we talk with all of our buyers about the 3% down. And then also too, if you're a vet or a doctor, there are special programs as well that require 0% down.
And I think beyond that too, if you're a first-time home buyer, there are first-time home buyer grants in the state of Illinois, the IDA grants through the Illinois Department of Housing. And so, those grants oftentimes are in the $5,000 to $10,000 range. So, if you want to buy a house, but you don't potentially have enough for the down payment, those are good programs to look at as well. The trade-off is it is a slightly higher interest rate for those, but there is that down payment assistance that comes. I know we've been getting asked a lot from clients, like, can you ask for closing costs from the sellers in order to help you, with some down payment assistance or covering your closing costs? That's not something typically seeing a lot of right now, especially if you're trying to buy in the suburbs where it's a very competitive market. So we wouldn't suggest that. We would suggest you have enough money both for the down payment, but then also one thing we haven't talked about are closing costs. So on top of the down payment, you are going to have to pay closing costs to buy a home. Those are typically about 2% of the purchase price. Those cover your attorney fees, your title fees. You have to pay taxes to the city and the county when you buy a property, the cost of the inspection, all of those kinds of things. So, if you have a down payment of 3%, you need that 2% as well for your closing costs. So you're really looking at about a 5% total that you would need to buy, unless, as Lauren said, you are a vet or you are a doctor and you can get one of those special loan programs with 0% down.
Super. Yeah, and our next question kind of touched on this already. What do you think will happen with interest rates? They're going to be ticking up. I think we hear that. I mean, I think we're hearing that sort of across the board. I think we expected a little bit more of them to rise up. I think right now, everything we're seeing in the economy in terms of inflation, in terms of pulling back and buying bonds and intervention by the Fed, those tendencies, those supports are coming out. So we're going back. The thing is, historically, we are super low. I mean, I look at my first mortgage was 9.5%. You know, my parents, I know back, you know, once had a mortgage for 18%. So historically, we're doing very well. The thing is, you know, but you just need to look at the payment, because right now, the nice thing about, even if we're moving towards 4%, the percentage of your payment that is interest right now, it's lower. You're able to, that's why, you know, even though you're like, oh, I may end up in a multiple offer situation, paying an extra $10,000, the impact on your price is going to be insignificant. And what you gain in terms of a lower interest now, as opposed to a year from now, is much greater. I mean, you could be talking, the interest rates could be 25% higher.
And I think, you know, two things kind of on top of that as well is that interest rates vary depending on the price of the property. So, you know, if you're looking at buying a jumbo property, which is, you know, a jumbo loan is anything over $647,200 once you factor in your down payment, those interest rates typically are higher. So a lot of the interest rates that we're seeing come across our desk on contracts right now, I would say, are in the 3% to like 3.5% range. You know, if you're looking, that's for a conventional loan. So anything below that new cap of $647,200. If you're looking to buy something over that amount, that's going to put you in the jumbo rate territory. That's a riskier loan for the lender. So typically your interest rate is higher for that. So it wouldn't be uncommon right now to see an interest rate in the 3.5%, maybe to 4% range on that jumbo loan. So your interest rate is going to depend in part on the price of the property that you're buying, and then obviously your own particular credit score. But in general, we do see all of those going up.
And I think that's one thing in terms of talking to a lender earlier in the process and sort of evaluating that will help you. We're happy to talk about that, but just sort of being able to evaluate the numbers, most buyers will do earlier on the site. So in terms of timing, Lauren.
Yes. So the big question is, when should you start looking for your next property while you're currently renting? So we always like to work backwards. So when we look at how long contract to close date is, meaning when you find a property you love and you put an offer in, typically the contract to close is 45 to 60 days. So when we work backwards, if your lease ends at the end of May, your drop dead date of, you know, ideally when you want to be under contract latest is about beginning of April. So, and before that, we always like to tell our clients too, you know, we want to educate you, especially if you're looking in different neighborhoods and different price points, that you really should start the process about 4 to 5 months before you're ready to make that move, just so that we have enough time to tour properties, for you to figure out what you like and don't like in a property, and then kind of give you a buffer zone of, if we do go under contract on a property and things don't look great during the inspection, we can still cancel that property and find you a new one within that time period that you're looking to move.
It's also important to talk with your landlord and see if they would be willing to let your lease, you know, let you out of your lease early, because it's a pretty strong rental market right now. You know, I have a lot of investment properties. It's pretty easy to find tenants right now. So, you know, your landlord might be willing to let you out so that they can increase the rent. The other option you also have is, if you still have a lot of time left in your lease, is that you have the right in Chicago to find a subleaser to take over the remainder of the lease. And that's something we can help you with. Typically what we have you do is talk to your landlord about just finding a new tenant to do a whole new lease of like a year, so that you're completely off the hook. Even if you only have like 6 months left, it's typically easier to find somebody who's doing like a year lease or longer rather than a 3 or 6 month lease. You know, so there are some options too. If your lease doesn't end for a long time, but you want to buy something now, we can certainly talk to you about how we do that with a lot of our clients.
Definitely. And also, sometimes you're able to get an extra month too. So don't be too stressed if you think you have something coming up in March. Landlords, I mean, in a perfect world, landlords love to be in the May to September window. So if there's something you can do to help your landlord, maybe get the lease. So maybe you sign something in October. They might want to get a little bit further back, so they might be open to that. Or if you've got a March expiration, they might be good giving it another month or two. So that might take a little bit of pressure off you. So we're always happy to talk through these options. But in the beginning, you're starting the process, you're kind of evaluating all kinds of things. And one of the most important things to evaluate, where to live.
I know. So this is a tough one. So what's the best place to live in the Chicagoland area? That's really going to depend on you and what you're looking for in a neighborhood. Do you want to be able to walk to a lot of shops and restaurants? If so, we can give you advice on what might be good places for you. If you are looking to move to the suburbs, we work in the suburbs as well. David and Lauren grew up in the western suburbs, so they know the western suburbs incredibly well. I moved to Wilmette on the North Shore several years ago, so I know the North Shore incredibly well. So we're happy to kind of help guide you to, whatever it is that you're looking for. Especially we're seeing a lot of urban flight right now with people wanting to go to the suburbs because they don't have to commute downtown every day. And so if they do have to commute downtown, maybe it's 1 day a week or 2 days a week. And so the trade-off for them is they would rather have a bigger house, for the same amount of money as buying in the city and only having to commute in, once or twice. So we're happy to, those are really kind of individual conversations for us to have with you, and talk to you about, do you need to be close to a metro stop, or do you need to be close to an L stop if you're in the city? Do you want more tree-lined streets, or do you want more high-rise buildings? That's really going to depend. So if you don't know Chicago very well, I would say give us a call, kind of come to us with the list of exactly what you're looking for, and then we can help suggest areas that might be a good fit for you. And obviously right now there's a lot going on in the city. We've been getting asked a lot of questions about crime. We have to be very careful about how we answer that because crime is very subjective. I might feel very safe in a neighborhood you don't feel safe in, but there's a lot of great resources online. So Trulia in particular has really great crime heat maps that you can go and look at, and they show all the crime in a neighborhood in the last 30 days. That's both in the city and the suburbs. So you can kind of see exactly what's going on in a neighborhood, to get a better handle on, is this going to be a good neighborhood for you? And we always encourage you, if it's a neighborhood you don't know, go drive around it. Go drive around it during the day, go drive around it at night in particular, see how it's different in the night. If it's near public transportation, take public transportation out there, see how that feels to you, see how long of a commute it is. So there's a lot of different kind of tips we can give you to help you figure out, exactly where you want to be.
And tomorrow at noon, for those of you considering the move to the suburbs, we're actually going to be doing another one of these. And if you look on our pages, about moving to the suburbs. So we're going to be talking about those, kind of giving, what, as you sort of figure out what suburbs work, but also things to be considering. So that'll be another half an hour one tomorrow at noon, but it's also going to be available on our website, Facebook Live, and all kinds of places. These are a lot of the questions. The questions we're bringing up today are things we get asked the most. One we get from a lot of people these days: what is a bidding war? You hear about it in the news. People love talking about this. We were saying earlier, we think this is this picture is from a outside a listing in California where they have single family. Things are not this bad, but a bidding war is something that's been common in the market. In places like California, New York, they were very common. In Chicago, we've had them. What it is when you have multiple people interested in a property, people are putting in multiple offers, and it sometimes can drive up the price. These are not uncommon right now, and we don't want you to be afraid. It doesn't mean you're going to lose, we are never going to ask you to overpay. We are, between the three of us, and we always work together. Generally, you're working with two of us. You're going to have two people looking at prices, because we know that, when it comes to a point, odds are, not only are you not going to want to overpay, your lender's not going to want you to overpay. So, generally speaking, you're going to want to be in with something that is a documentable value. Sometimes there are exceptions to that, but sometimes, first a property comes on, multiple offers. They say we're going to take offers through the weekend, and there are different ways to approach this. We dealt with Lauren, how many multiple bidding wars, multiple offers did you deal with in 21? Would you say?
I would say 50 at least.
Like you were the general of this. So this is something we're very familiar with, and in terms of figuring out strategy and ways to sort of present yourself. And it's not just about money. There are other ways to do it. Getting into the market early. There are a lot of things we do. And I look at Lauren. Something you've been great at is looking at homes pre-market before they're on the open MLS. So there are ways, hopefully, to avoid that. So once again, being in the hands of a good broker can help really negotiate this process.
And as David said, there are a lot of other ways, that we can kind of beat out the other buyers, so in particular, one thing that's been really popular for the past year and a half is post-possession. A lot of sellers, want to be able to stay in that property for 30, 60 days after closing. And that way they have time to find their next property and figure out what their next move is. So we've been winning a lot of multiple offers by offering post-possession. Sometimes our clients will offer that for free, and sometimes those sellers will pay rent for that month or two that they're staying in the property. One interesting thing to think about is, say you close on a property February 15th, your first mortgage payment is not going to be due until April 1st. So we always tell clients it doesn't really cost you much to offer post-possession to the sellers, because you're not paying a mortgage payment for essentially the first month and a half, depending on when you close during the month. So, it's kind of a nice way to offer something to the sellers that doesn't cost you any money. We've also been doing a lot of price escalation riders where we'll say that we'll beat another offer by $2,500 or $5,000, something like that, up to a max amount. So I'm dating myself here, but it's kind of when eBay came out and you did those, those automatic bids where it bid up to whatever your max amount was. That's essentially how it goes with a price escalation rider, right? So, say the purchase price is 500,000, you're willing to go to 525. You would say, I would beat your offer, the other offers by $2,500 up to $525,000. Okay. We actually don't recommend even numbers like that. We recommend going to odd numbers like 526,000, because that's more likely to get you to win. And then the listing agent actually has to show us proof of that other offer so that we know existed, we can see it, we can verify it, etc. Another popular way to beat out other buyers is an as-is offer. That's more common. I'm more comfortable with those for condos than I am for single family houses, because you tend to have a lot less issues in condos than you do for single family houses. I'm more comfortable with them for newer construction single family houses than I am for like a 100-year-old single family house, but we can always talk to you about the particulars of the property you're buying. What an as-is offer means is that you are buying the property as is. So you are allowed to do an inspection. You can do whatever inspections you want, and then you either have to decide to take the property in the condition that it's in, or you walk away and you don't buy the property. Okay, you do get your earnest money back that you put down at that point, which is usually $1,000. So you can walk away. You just can't go back to the sellers and ask them typically for any repairs or any credits. I say that with a slight caveat, because there have been instances, David's laughing, if something really bad comes up and you're planning to walk on the property anyway, say the radon levels are high, or we find asbestos, or we find mold, something really big like that, we have gone back to them and said, hey, I know we were supposed to buy this property as is. My clients are going to walk unless you're willing to fix the radon and bring it into acceptable levels, so it is as is, but sometimes there is a little wiggle room if it is a really big deal. So the other thing we always do is we always have the lender call the listing agent to pitch you as a strong buyer. That makes a big difference. So there's a lot of different tactics that we can suggest to you based on exactly kind of what the property is that you're looking to buy, what your finances are, et cetera. As far as going over asking price, this really depends on what the price point is of the property you're looking to buy. In the suburbs, we've been telling people it is not uncommon for properties to go 50 to 75,000 over asking price in the suburbs right now. So when you're looking at a property online, if it's 600,000, it could very well go for 650 to 675,000. In the city, those numbers are down a little bit more. So I would say for a single family house in the city, it wouldn't be uncommon for it to go 25 to 50,000 over asking price. If it's a condo, those numbers are down a little bit more. So townhouses, you're probably looking at like 10 to 25,000 if it's priced appropriately. 3-bedroom condos, probably more in the 15 to 20,000 range. 2 bedrooms and 1 bedroom condos, we're not seeing nearly as many multiple offers on those because people want more space. So hopefully that helps, answer questions about how can you beat out other buyers and how much over asking price would you potentially have to go.
And then just to add to that, Shay, too, our biggest value proposition that we offer to our clients is also, us as a team, and we're very reputable in the industry. And, unlike some other brokers that, can just email an offer over and not even call the other side, we really take it upon ourselves to, make that relationship. And it's what also beat out many offers for our clients, knowing that they have a good team that's going to get them to the closing line.
And I think one other point to that too is there are two of us that work with every client, and so typically how it goes is, like Lauren and David will be out doing most of the showings with the clients, and I tend to man the computer and do like the pricing analysis and writing up the offers. And so we're usually able to get offers in much faster than anybody else, because kind of the goal is if you leave a property and you like it, one of us is going to be able to hop on the computer, do the pricing analysis, get the offer written and over to you, ideally before you even get home from that showing, so that we can try to beat out other buyers and just avoid multiple offers at all. And so we have found that strategy to be very effective in winning properties for clients as well.
Cool. One thing I just want to throw out there that we've actually had people starting to look at right now. Some of the lenders we work with actually do everyone probably all knows you need to be pre-approved for loan. You need a lender to look at your financials, your tax returns, pay stubs, verifying where you're at. And that puts, so they know that at least on your side of it, you're going to be approved. One thing, and Chad Lubin who's with Cross Country, has been doing lately is actually starting and doing the entire underwriting process before putting in an offer. When you're up against a lot of other people, this is one of those additional things that might make a difference. Because when you're buying a home, particularly a condo, it's an issue. The buyer has to be approved and the property needs to be approved. Not so much of an issue with single family homes, but with condominiums. But if you take any uncertainty out about the buyer, that really makes a seller feel. So if you're coming up to some with the same exact offer and you've already gone through underwriting, that could be a distinguisher. I mean, we just try to put as many things in. There's a fee for that up front, but if you end up using them for loan, you get that gets rolled in. So can be money well spent. So we just look to have as many tools that we have working for you. And we're always happy to talk about, we have even others. But
I think that also brings up a good point, David, in that the lender matters in terms of who you work with. As listing agents, we do a lot of, half of our business is selling properties and listing them. And, when we're in a multiple offer situation, we're really looking strongly at the lender. And is that a strong lender who does a good pre-approval on that person? We get very nervous when it's an online lender because oftentimes they're not as good. When it's not an experienced lender, when it's at a bank we don't know, we've never heard of, no one's ever heard of this person. So working with a lender who is a known quantity, who has a good reputation, we have won many offers because of that as well, because they know that lender did a good, strong pre-approval that's going to actually get to closing and it's going to be a smooth transaction. So I think not only does your agent matter, but your lender is really important as well.
Cool. And we've got two more folks here. And if you have any questions, please pop them into the chat box. We'll try to answer that. We're going to stay on afterwards. Our core section is in the first half an hour, but we'll be staying on for the next 15 minutes or so if you have any questions you want to send our way.
Yeah.
Then another question we get asked a ton is COVID still impacting the market and buying process? And, I think COVID has changed the world for forever. I think that, the work from home space isn't going away anytime soon. A lot of people have realized kind of, what's important to them, especially in a home with everyone being in their homes so much these past 2 years. So, we are seeing on the trend side, home offices, home gym, and we think that, this is just going to be something that's here to stay, and people are going to continue to look for more things that fit their needs home-wise, and also just, in terms of what they want to purchase and think about their lifestyle as a whole.
I think on top of that too, COVID is kind of impacting the process right now in terms of supply chain issues. We're seeing a lot of buyers who say, I don't want a fixer-upper because prices for materials are incredibly high right now. There's a labor shortage for contractors, so it's hard to get any contractors into your house. It's 6 months to get an oven oftentimes, So, what we're telling our sellers is do as much as you can to get your home ready, because buyers want those move-in ready houses that there are very few projects that they need to do. So those properties in particular that have the, whiter gray walls with the white countertops, the white cabinets, all the bathrooms updated, et cetera, those are the ones in particular that are selling faster and higher for price, because people just don't want to deal with all of the problems in terms of doing construction on a property right now that COVID has brought.
Exactly. And one other thing about COVID, in just in terms of logistics, people still are asking us. Last year was a huge concern. People a little more comfortable going out and looking. But at the same time, if you're more concerned, we can always set up individual showings. If you have an open house, we can go on the beginning or the end. We always have tons of hand sanitizer. Most listings are much better about it now. And one of the great things about it is actually there are a lot more 3D tours out there for properties. We do this on the listing side with a lot more of our listings than we used to. And it really can save you the trouble of seeing properties. I mean, they're not, it's not, the quality isn't always perfect, but it always gives you a sense of a flow of the property, which sometimes a floor plan can't. So we always encourage people to look at that. But in terms of COVID, in terms of safety and security, let us know if you have any concerns. We're always happy to, and most brokers really are pretty good about it. Work with that and make you feel comfortable while you're out looking. So from there, what do we do next?
What should you do next? I mean, so, really it's a matter of figuring out kind of what your timeline is. We always say the earlier you can reach out to us, the better. So even if you're not looking to buy for a year or two, we'd love to start that conversation with you now so we can start to educate you. You can start to figure out, do you want to be in the city, the suburbs, what neighborhoods do you want to be in? And we're happy. We have a lot of clients who aren't looking to buy for a year. And so we'll take them out, 1 week at a month. Yeah, and start to show them houses. We always say go to open houses as well, so you can start to get familiar with the inventory. We like to get you set up on an MLS search so that you can start to educate yourself on what your money can buy, so that when you're ready to buy, you understand, is this a good deal? How does this compare to kind of what could come on the market? All of those kinds of things. I would also say talk to a lender now. That should really be one of the first things that you do, is go through that pre-approval process. A lot of clients say to us, well, I think the pre-approvals only last a couple of months, so I don't want to do it until I'm ready to buy. Yes, they only last a couple of months, but typically what happens is the lender will have a conversation with you and say, hey, has anything massive changed with your financials? If it hasn't, they'll just simply renew that pre-approval letter. So we have clients who go through that process who don't buy for a year, 2, 3 years, and the letters just keep getting renewed. So it's better to do that on the front end. Then you have an understanding of how much can you afford? What are you comfortable with for the monthly payment? So you're looking at the right properties. And also the lenders can say to you, hey, I think these couple of things would really increase your credit score, and that would get you a better interest rate. Those changes usually take a couple of months to go through, so it's better if you can start that lending process a lot earlier. David, Lauren, do you have anything else you'd want to add on that?
Yeah, I mean, I think especially in the credit thing, that earlier, the pre-approval, the earlier the better. I mean, people get worried about losing points. You lose about 15 to 20 points when they do a poll. If you talk to multiple lenders, if you talk to more than one person, it's not going to be another 15. It's sort of worked in. The models know when you're looking. Same thing happens with a car loan. And it's worth it because I think, I know when I bought my first home, the first one, there were 2 inaccuracies and they took like 3 months to clear up. And once I did, my score went up 20 or 25 points. And I don't remember, it made a slight difference in terms of the rate. So it's never too early, and don't worry about losing points, about the hit to your credit score. The upside is much better than that. And it's also just really, in terms of getting comfortable with the numbers, I mean, a good lender is going to help you sort of, if you see a property, can help run the numbers and let you know what that payment is going to look like. Because we do have, I think between, we don't need to count out the number of years between us, but good experience, and we do understand the lending process. There are ins and outs that a good lender knows, and an online lender from an app is not going to help you with that. So you can never start that process too early. And everyone loves over the holidays. It used to be 6 months of looking online before the average consumer went out. Now it's like 2 weeks over the holidays and people are out. So it's never too early to start.
And just to add to, we're a very hands-on educational team, and we just really want to see you happy at the end of the day. And we want to make sure that you feel very sound in the big financial decision you're making. So, look to us as resources. No question is a stupid question, and we're always here to help.
So thank you so much. We really appreciate your time to be here today, whether you're live. Randy, thanks for coming, or whether you are watching us on Facebook Live or watching the replay later. If you do have any questions, please feel free to reach out to us anytime. Our phone numbers are on the screen. You can call or text us anytime. You can send us an email. We are open books. And as Lauren always tells every client, no question is a stupid question, so don't be, nervous about asking us anything. We've literally heard all of it before. And as David said, we have over 30 years of experience. So we have a lot of experience in kind of every single market. So we would love to answer any questions that you have, whether it's about buying or selling now, or even if you're going, gosh, I just bought this house and now I want to remodel it. What should I do that would bring value in the future? Those are things we're always happy to answer, anything real estate related. We've been getting a lot of questions lately about property taxes. How do you appeal your property taxes? Who do you go to do that, right? So any question you have about maintenance, property taxes, rehabbing, remodeling, anything like that, service providers. We have a fantastic list of service providers. So please feel free to use us as a resource for anything. We are really here for you. So thanks for coming, everybody. Thanks, Randy. Thank you for the nice feedback. And I think we'll go ahead and log off then. Maybe people can join us for the cell class that we're doing in a little bit. So, all right, have a good rest of the day, everybody. Thank you.